Okay, in this video we'll look at how to handle scientific notation in your calculator. As a teacher, I've seen a lot of students working with their calculators and seen a lot of mistakes in the way that people put things in. Oftentimes those poor methods for entering numbers into the calculator don't cause problems, but especially with division. Division is the one place where if you don't put the scientific notation in correctly, or you don't use correct mathematical order of operations, then it's going to run into problems. And while everything will be correct, when you go to the calculator, you'll end up with the correct answer, even with all of the work correct. So just to give you an example where you would run into problems, let's take a look at this calculation. 8.8 times 10 to the fourth divided by 2.0 times 10 to the second. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way. 8.8 times 10 to the fourth divided by the quantity 2.0 times 10 to the second. So we'll bring the calculator back in. And typically what I see most students do is something like this. So they type in the 8.8 and then they want the calculator to look like the way that the calculation looks on the paper. So what they will typically do is they'll say times 10 caret to the fourth divided by 2.0 times 10 caret to the second. I'm sure many of you have done it in this manner. And when I hit the enter button, it gives me an answer, except that is not the correct answer. And the problem with it is that the order of operations, what this calculator has done is it made the multiplication, 8.8 times 10 to the fourth. It treated those as two separate numbers. So it actually made the calculation and multiplied these two. Then it divided by 2.0. Everything so far is good. But then the last step, rather than dividing the 10 to the second into the top number, it actually multiplied it by the top number. So as a result, it should have reduced the size of the number by 2 zeros, but instead it did the opposite and added 2 zeros. So what should have happened is it added these 2 zeros when what it should have done was subtracted these 2 zeros, which would have taken us down to an answer of only 440. So the best way to do it is your calculator has a scientific notation feature built into it. You just need to know how to use it. So on my calculator, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. So on my calculator, that scientific notation feature is right here on the comma as a secondary feature. So you'll see the letters EE. Those letters EE represent the times 10 portion of the scientific notation. So let's go back. We'll zoom out just a little bit. And we'll redo the calculation, and this time we'll use the scientific notation feature of the calculator. So the first number was 8.8. This time, instead of saying times 10, what I'm going to do is second function, EE. Now that E represents the times 10, and if you want, it would even include the caret. So all I need now is to put in the exponent. So I'm going to put in the factor at the beginning, and I'm going to put in the exponent on the order of magnitude, that's 4. And so the way this number reads is 8.8 times 10 to the fourth. Now when I do divided by 2.0, and I follow the same method, second function EE2, 2.0 times 10 to the 2, and I hit enter, I get 440, which is the correct answer. So the difference in the two calculations is that your calculator treats 8.8 e to the fourth as a single number, and it treats 2.0 e to the 2 as a single number. So when it divides, there's no order of operations. And in the previous calculation, it treated it as though there were 4 separate numbers: the 8.8, the 10 to the fourth, the 2.0, and the 10 to the 2. So by using the scientific notation feature of your calculator, it's much less likely that you're going to make a calculator mistake. Now if you really insist, you could make this previous method work, but what you need to do is to put everything into parentheses. So if I say times 10 caret to the fourth divided by parentheses 2.0 times 10 caret to the second, end parentheses, you'll see I do get the correct answer. I still get 440. But if you look at how much longer this notation is, it was already longer before I even put in the parentheses, and now it made it almost twice as long as the calculation. It's more buttons to push, it's a lot more work, it's more to think about. So if you just use the scientific notation feature of your calculator, you'll really reduce those calculator mistakes, and it'll make scientific notation just so much easier to work with.